Hello everybody and welcome back to Expert Examiner IELTS. My name is Glyn and in this video we're going to give some more speaking feedback, this time with Sarah's speaking test. So let's jump straight in. Good morning, my name is Glyn. Would you please tell me your full name?
Good morning, sir. Well, let me introduce myself. My name is Sarah. You can call me Sarah.
Thank you, Sarah. Now, in this first part of the test, I'm going to ask you some questions about yourself. Where are you from?
Well, I'm from Indonesia, which is I live in the capital city.
I'm from Indonesia, which is I live in the capital city. Okay, she's developing.
In Indonesia, in Jakarta city.
Just, again, this just a couple of extra bits that we don't need, right? I'm from Indonesia. I live in the capital city, which is Jakarta. That's fine. And what do you like about living in Jakarta?
In Jakarta, I really comfortable about the facility.
I really comfortable about. So this is a systemic error, or well, there's no verb there, right? I comfortable. In English, we use this verb to be if we are like using adjectives like I am comfortable or I am excited, or with nouns I am a teacher or she is an engineer or something like this. So missing those like simple verbs to be, okay, it's absolutely fine if you do it once or twice, no problem. But if we have, for me, that's always a sign that the candidate hasn't quite acquired the basics of English when they can't use that verb to be reliably. Like I comfortable about, okay, it's getting the message across, it's clear, but there are parts of English grammar which are fundamental, and that is, one fundamental part of English grammar is that when we have clauses, we use verbs. That's such a fundamental part of English grammar. Clauses require verbs. And when you say I comfortable, there's no verb there. Yeah, anyway. Maybe I am worrying about nothing.
Here, because there are so many facilities like public transportation.
Okay, I've seen this a lot from candidates who use the word facilities to talk about their hometown. I don't know what that means when we talk about facilities. Maybe candidate means infrastructure or something like that. I'm not sure. Like a sports complex can have facilities, or a hotel can have facilities, but I'm not sure, right? I don't know if it's appropriate to say that a city has facilities, or I don't know if it's inappropriate to say that a city has facilities. But I'm just saying, to my ear, that just sounds a little bit strange. My city has a lot of facilities. I don't know. Just a bit odd.
Supermarket and something like that.
And does Jakarta have a lot of tourists? But I will say that she does a good job of backing this up, right? She doesn't just say facilities and leave it there. She mentions public transport, she mentions supermarkets. That's good.
Yes, I consider many people come from different country to.
I consider many people come from different country. It's, yeah, just a bit odd again. Why I consider, I don't know. I believe, maybe I think. I don't know.
To Jakarta because they interested about the building.
Again, notice they interested about. Again, we're missing this verb to be, right? They are interested in, not they interested about. So earlier we had I comfortable about, now they interested about, signs that it's systemic.
And maybe the culture of in Jakarta city, for instance, we have a traditional event every amount.
Traditional events, I think she's saying, but we know that for many people in East Asia or Southeast Asia, consonant clusters are so difficult, right? The word events, it's EVENTS. That's a N, a T, and a S together. Now, for some speakers of English, that's absolutely fine, right? Events. That's easy to do. For many people in the world, consonant clusters are rare. Having three N, T, S things together, that's a very unusual feature of language for many people in the world. And so the word events comes out like event, event. So just listen to this pronunciation again.
For instance, we have a traditional event.
We have traditional even. We only get that one consonant, right? Even, we get the n. We don't get the n, t, s. So this is, unfortunately, this is a feature of English phonology, consonant clusters. This is one slip, but if the candidate frequently misses those consonant clusters, we can say, that limits the phonological range that the candidate has.
The amount, and it used to many people come to watch it.
It used to, many people come to watch it. So she's trying to use used to, and there's a good attempt at that grammar, but she's just mixing up, she's putting the subject in the wrong place. It used to, many people come. It should be many people used to come. So yeah, an attempt at, some nice grammar, but it's not quite there.
That event.
Okay, we got event there. We got the n and the t. And what do young people do for fun in Jakarta?
As long as I know that many.
Not as long as I know, as far as I know. So you just, a great attempt there. As far as I know, not as long as I know.
Teenagers keen to watch a lot of.
Okay, teenagers are keen to watch. The most common construction is be keen on doing something. That means you like doing something. Be keen to do something kind of means that you want to do something. Like, I'm keen to start work. I really want to start work. I'm keen on doing something means I like it. So candidate just mixes up those constructions. And I know a lot of candidates, they are told, okay, don't use like in the IELTS exam, use keen on or fond of, right? And sometimes it's fine to use like. In most cases, it's fine to use like. Teenagers like.
Cinema, because here there are some facilities for watching together, and it's free. For instance, in National Library, there is a new cinema that the cinema is the story about history of Indonesia.
Cool. So the candidate is showing a willingness to speak at length. She's feels quite comfortable developing. Sure, the flow of her speech isn't perfect, but she's comfortable developing her answer there, and the answer makes absolute sense. Cool. Let's move on now and talk about music. What kind of music do you like the most?
Well, actually, I like pop music, and it's almost every day. I
I mean, I like pop music, right? And it almost every day.
listen the.
It almost every day I listen. So I maybe we're mixing up the word order here. I listen to it almost every day. Perhaps.
Pop music because it can boost my energy
Cool. I like that. It can boost my energy. Nice support.
before I work.
That's a great answer, right? I like pop music. I listen to it every day. It can boost my energy before I work. Great. Really nice development. I like it. And do you have any favorite musicians or singers?
Actually, I don't have any favorite.
So just be careful with how often you use actually. I think this is the fourth time we've had it. It's okay. We all have some words that we overuse, but we don't want to get into the pattern of answering most of our questions with actually, actually, actually. So just be careful.
Musician because I just watch the music according to my mood at the time. If
Cool. Oh, watch music. I mean, maybe people watch music videos, but according to my mood, nice.
I feeling well, so I just
Again, I feeling well. No real control over these verb forms, right? I feel good or I'm feeling good, but not I feeling well.
search the lyrics similar with my mood.
Similar to is better than similar with, but okay, it makes sense, right? Similar with my mood. Cool, understandable. And is there any kind of music that you don't like very much?
Maybe I don't like rock because it's make me
Again, it's make me. It's make me. Again, very basic verb forms, right? Instead of it makes me, candidate produces it's make me. Now, again, the meaning is absolutely clear. But what we can say is that the candidate already, we can say this in part one, the candidate cannot reliably produce accurate grammar with even basic sentences. So we just see a build up now of so many small mistakes. Sure, they don't negatively affect the understanding, they don't negatively affect the messaging, the communicative achievement, but we know grammatical accuracy is a thing. And so if we have constant mistakes, repetitive mistakes with the most basic forms, it's really going to limit your grammar to a 5.
Easy when I listen that kind of music, because maybe the music very loud.
Again, the music very loud, missing that verb to be. The music is very loud. This is already, I think, the third or the fourth case where the candidate has missed that verb to be. So now I'm thinking, well, it's not just a slip here. A slip is when you know the grammar, but for some reason you just forget it when you're speaking, or you're inattentive. When we see candidates repeating the same type of mistake over and over, we think, okay, that's then a systemic mistake. There are different definitions of what a systemic mistake is, so I won't go into that here. But to me, it seems clear that the candidate cognitively perhaps doesn't understand when we need the verb to be and when we don't need the verb to be. You know, she says it is makes. We don't need the verb to be here, but then she says I comfortable. She doesn't use the verb to be when she needs the verb to be. So yeah, there are systemic problems with the verb to be, which is, one of the most important verbs in English. All right, let's talk about exams or tests now. When did you last take an exam or a test?
If I'm not mistaken, it's on
Cool. I love this if it's not mistaken as a discourse marker. Very, very nice.
29
But it was on, it is on.
December to 2024. It's the last test that I took.
Cool. Maybe give a bit of extra information. What was this test? Was it a driving test? Was it an academic test? Candidate doesn't really offer that detail. And for me, that's an obvious detail to include. If somebody said, like, when did you last eat something? And I said, oh, this morning. It's like, well, say what you ate, right? When did you last watch a film? Oh, 2 months ago. Say what the film was. So we really should add that detail. And how do you usually feel when you have to take a test or an exam?
Well, I was very bad.
So notice the question, how do you usually feel, present time? Candidate answers with I was, past time. So there's a lack of coherence there. The answer doesn't quite match the question.
He was very bad at the time about the result.
So candidate is speaking about one single event in the past instead of talking about things in general. Now, this is one of the things I notice most about, candidates who are at that like B1 level or maybe high B1. There's For some reason there always seems to be that problem between talking about when very often you ask a question that requires the candidate to speak in general and they speak about something specific, and then you ask the candidate to speak about something specific and they speak in general. So that is a problem with coherence. It might come down to the candidate not understanding the question or the candidate mishearing the question. There are all sorts of reasons why it might happen, but examiners, it's not the examiner's job to try to guess or infer why something happens. It's much easier to say, okay, the question required that the candidate should speak about something in general, but the candidate spoke about a specific thing in the past, and there's a lack of coherence there.
Because my expectation was very high, and the reality it's not similar.
Cool, I like that. Expectation reality, that's become a meme. But the language isn't perfect, but her idea is clear. Good.
So I disappointed about my result.
I disappointed. Again, we're missing that verb to be. I was disappointed. And when you were at school, did you have to do a lot of exams or tests?
I consider when I was
I would advise the candidate to forget about the word consider. I don't think she knows its exact meaning, and I don't, Yeah, it's a couple of times now she hasn't used it right. I would say just get rid of consider. You could spend some time learning how consider works, but probably just forget about it. Use something else, use something easier, like I think. Better, I think, sure, there have been candidates in the past where I've said, like, oh, maybe add more variety, don't always use I think, but it's always better to be accurate, and in my opinion, it's better to be accurate with think than to take risks trying to find synonyms and getting it wrong.
In students in elementary school, senior high school, or junior high school, I didn't have any exam, but
Really? No exams or tests at school? Maybe that's true. I'm surprised. I'm not speaking as an examiner now. I'm just speaking as a human.
I almost every day to get homework from
I almost every day to get homework. So again, verb forms just aren't there, right? That's not how we use infinitives. I almost every day to get homework. I used to get homework almost every day. I got homework almost every day, but not I to get homework almost every day.
my teacher.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so comment on part one. Candidate shows a willingness to develop her answers. She doesn't give short answers. Her answers don't go on for too long. The length of her answers is generally appropriate. The communicative achievement is pretty good too. There are simple questions and in general clear answers. One or two questions perhaps where like the answers didn't quite match the question, but in general the communicative achievement is fine. Pronunciation is easy enough to understand, but like many people in East Asia or Southeast Asia, there are some problems with consonant clusters. We notice that the flow of the speech is a little bit slow, and sometimes the pronunciation maybe is a little bit mechanical, but in general, candidate is easy enough to understand. Grammar is a critical weakness, though. We have mistakes in almost every clause, and there really doesn't seem to be any evidence that the candidate has acquired the basic fundamentals of English grammar. Now, I understand for many speakers of East Asian languages, the idea of like verb tenses is so strange because in many languages they just don't have like this morphology of verbs. These verbs don't change depending on the time. And in English we have like I say we have, well, two tenses or eight tenses. Let's go with eight. I do, I'm doing, I have done, I have been doing, I did, I was doing, I had done, I had been doing. Those, of course, we have future time constructions too, but they are not tenses. But anyway, we have a bunch of different constructions that we use to kind of manipulate or to express time that, of course, all languages are equally rich, and languages that people speak in places like Indonesia and Malaysia and Thailand, of course, they can express time too, but they probably use adverbs to express time more than they use verb forms to express time. Anyway, again, we can go into reasons why this happens, but the critical thing is, unfortunately, here the candidate doesn't show any awareness of how English verb forms work, and that is a critical problem in terms of grammar. Okay, so let's get to part two. I've spent quite a lot of time on part one. I probably won't give so many details about part two and part three, but let's get into part two. The candidate has to describe a time when she lost something. Again, this requires the candidate to talk about the past. And again, what we usually see here is that candidates who are like A2 will just use present simple. Candidates who are B1 will just use past simple. Candidates who are B2 will use, a little bit more of a variety, maybe past simple, used to, and past continuous. And maybe with candidates who are like C1, maybe they have a much wider range of grammatical structures. They might use past modals, they might use reported speech, future and past, those sequence of tenses constructions, and so on. So let's see how the candidate does here. Yeah, describe a time when you lost something. When you lost something, you're...
Well, I would tell you about the time that I lost my phone, the time when I was in senior high school.
Cool. Lost my phone, was in senior high school. We get some past simple.
My friend and I went to
Went to some past simple.
the public transportation. We want to go
Now we're back to present simple, right? We want to go instead of we wanted.
supermarket, and
Yeah, we wanted to go, not we wanted to go supermarket, but we wanted to go to the supermarket. So these these prepositional phrases that show direction, wanted to go where? To the supermarket. Just missing that.
we drive. We
Again, we drive.
drop.
Candidate then catches herself, we drove. So cool that the candidate is giving me evidence here that she at least cognitively understands that there is a difference between drive and drove, and she finds that and corrects herself. Good.
My car together. However, in the middle location, we
Get that in the middle. Candidate relies on repetition to keep going.
I feel something lost.
Again, I feel present time.
In my wallet. Unfortunately, my phone lost, and
My phone lost. My phone was lost. I lost my phone, or my phone got lost, perhaps.
I didn't know about which place that
Cool. Negative past simple. I didn't know. Good.
I put my phone at the time, and I shocked, and my friend immediately
I shock. Yeah, again, I was shocked.
called the
My friend immediately calls, so we're back to present simple. So I won't worry too much about the verb forms now. More, what I can say, just based on this little clip, is that, the candidate demonstrates some awareness of verb forms when talking about the past. However, she cannot reliably, consistently use correct past tense verb forms. Yeah.
family member in my home to ask them about my phone, but no one known about where my phone's put.
No one about where my phone is put. So this is a mistake that leads to some strain on the listener. Word order is important in English. Really, according to the strictest of linguists, I guess, the grammar is simply morphology and syntax, right? It's only word order and morphology, the way that words change, like play changes to played, or playing, or plays. Strictly speaking, grammar is just syntax and morphology. Although, in today's English learning world, we think of grammar as being much more than that. But yeah, if you get word order wrong, it's problematic.
And then because of that,
Cool, I like this because of that. That's nice.
my friend and I went to the
My friend and I, really nice.
police to get information.
We went to the police to give information using the infinitive to express purpose. That's very good.
And we asked the police that maybe the police can help us.
Yeah, so we want like a reported request here. We asked the police to help us. We asked the police if they could help us. Perhaps the candidate doesn't quite get that grammar and uses instead, we asked the police, maybe they can help us. Something like this she uses. Yeah. Okay.
The police can help us to find my phone. Unfortunately, there is no result, and until now, I don't know where is my phone.
I don't know where my phone is, but okay, that's tricky grammar, embedded questions.
So it's my story when I was in senior high school that I lost my...
Candidate's repeating now. She's just wrapping up and summarizing, but I think she knows, I haven't filled the 2 minutes, so I'll try to spend like the remaining time just summarizing.
And yeah, because maybe it's...
So clear the candidate has run out of ideas and now she's just reaching, freestyling.
My mistake,
but it's good that she's trying to fill the 2 minutes.
I feel disappointed because of that.
Thank you. All right, so comments on part 2. Again, we do have critical errors with grammar, unfortunately. The good news is that IELTS is quite generous. Like, for me, I would say the candidate has pre-intermediate A2 grammar. But according to most exams and according to IELTS, probably it's not going to be a 4, it's going to be a 5. But for me, if it was if I was doing a placement test for like a bunch of students to understand which level they were going to study at, I would put this candidate in an A2 group in terms of grammar. But for IELTS, it'll probably come out as like low B1 or maybe even high B1, probably band 5 for grammar. Yeah, I think in IELTS, they probably would give her band 5. All right, so you've been talking about a time when you lost your phone. Let's talk about losing things now. Apart from telephones, what are some other common items that people often lose? Yeah, we have a bit of latency here. It's okay, the candidate is thinking. We don't want that pause to be too long, and sometimes, it's okay to take a moment to think, and then if we still can't think of something, we should start then verbalizing. We should start like saying what we're thinking. That might be repeating elements of the question, like, ooh, other items that people lose. Or it might be verbalizing how you're unsure. Ooh, I'm not so sure about that. Let me think a second. So, yeah, people lose their phone. Oh, car keys. People often lose their car keys, don't they? So, taking a little bit of time to think and a little pause, absolutely fine. But we don't want the pause to go on for too long, and you can, say what you're thinking.
Maybe money, it's
Yeah, cool.
common for many people that lose, especially when they want to pay something
Love this, especially when they want to. That's really good development.
in the supermarket, and they take
Not pay something, but pay for something.
the money, and the other money fall because maybe in the pocket it's too full of money, so the other money fall and they not realize that they
Yeah, they not realize, again, basic grammar.
money fall.
And do you agree that people in the past took better care of their things than people today?
No, I don't agree about this because in the past many people bring a lot of money with their wallet. In contrast, right now, because there is a new technology, like we just
So candidate is, she's not freaking out here. These are quite difficult questions in part 3. She seems relaxed and she is giving, pretty clear answers.
pay something with QR or barcode on.
Well, and I love her natural approach to this, that she is taking just a communicative approach. She's trying to answer questions meaningfully and with clear details.
We use the card, we can pay much, and it's not to make many people.
Okay, candidates' video quality internet connection is a little bit weak, but let's not worry about that.
Use or bring a lot of money with their pocket.
Yeah, just losing coherence. Bring a lot of money with their pocket. In their pocket, perhaps, she means. And what advice would you give to someone who. But it's not. I don't know. I think I get the main idea. Let's keep going. Who is always losing their things. So, advice. They should. I would advise them to. I'd recommend. I would suggest. That type of functional language might be nice.
Maybe I will give information to them that they have to make a note about what they bring.
Well, it's quite complex, right? Make a note about what they bring.
And what they have to remember about the thing that they bring.
What they have to remember about the thing that's also quite a bit of complex grammar. So, there's certainly elements of natural grammar that she's acquired. And even interestingly, there are aspects of quite complex grammar that she's acquired and can use well. It's the basic stuff that's really hurting her grammar.
Outside, for instance, my friend.
But I will mention that in part 3 here, I think her fluency has slowed down a little bit. That's normal. Part 3 is difficult. It has more difficult questions. Candidate really is giving it her best shot, but it is noticeable that her fluency is just breaking down a little bit.
Friend, because she always forget about something,
Again, she always forgets, not she always forget.
and I advise to her, please, you write in your
I advised to her, please you write in your. So again, that's very basic in terms of grammar.
phone note about what thing you bring before you go outside.
And is this advice helpful? Does it work?
Yes, of course, especially for people who always forget every time. It's like remind them to uh to recall their memory about the things that they think is important to save.
Mm-hmm. And do you think technology can help us to make sure we don't lose things? I'll just do one or two more questions, I think.
Of course, as I mentioned you before, like
Cool. As I mentioned, you referencing this earlier idea. Good.
I advise to my friends to always write in OneNote because there is an application right now for not what we want to write. For instance, our recommended Microsoft Note
I will say her pronunciation is very, very clear. It's very easy to understand what she's trying to say.
can write any.
Sure, there are missing aspects of like higher level phonological features like connected speech. Maybe a bit more intonation could be useful, but I will say the clarity of her speech, how easy it is to understand her, it's really, really good.
Think what you want, and it's unlimited. I think about the note that we want to write.
And why is taking notes on a phone more useful or more helpful than taking physical notes on paper? Okay, this will be the last question that I deal with, and then I'll go to marks.
In my opinion, because it's more flexible, we can only bring a phone and we just hold with our hand, go to outside, go to anywhere. It's only bring our phone, and the phone has a lot of information.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I kind of get the idea. You know, it's a good point. It's more flexible. You can take it with you wherever you want, but I don't think the idea is fully developed. But okay, I think we can go into marks because I don't think, you know, the reason I'm cutting this early is because there's not much, or there's nothing really now that's going to change the final mark. I've collected enough evidence about the candidate speech that I feel like I can award marks. So let's go into it. So fluency and coherence. Let's have a think about this. Candidate does develop well. I'm thinking between the 6 and the 5. And I do think there are some good connectives in there, like because of that, or she expresses purpose well. I'm I'm gonna be generous and give the 6. So, the length of your answers. The length of your answers is appropriate. You show a willingness to develop your answers and use a range of connectives well. Cool. Sometimes you lose some coherence. You know, sometimes the answers don't always match the questions perfectly, and you sometimes need to rely on slow speech and repeating ideas to continue. Now, this relying on slow speech and repetition to continue might be closer to the 5, but I do feel like there is just about enough development and just about enough good use of connectives for a 6. Certainly some examiners might give it a 5. I think we just about have enough for a 6. Lexical resource, I'm between the 5 and the 6 on this. Ugh. I'm going to give 6 for lexical resource. Yeah, again, an examiner could give a 5. So sometimes it's clear that you lack an awareness of collocation, like to go to the supermarket to put something in your pocket, especially with prepositional phrases, collocation, lack awareness of maybe prepositional phrases. That's quite a regular mistake that we see there with lexical resource. However, you don't have too much difficulty accessing relevant vocab to discuss a variety of topics. It never, sometimes we feel like, oh, the candidate really doesn't have enough vocab to express what they want to say, and I don't think you express things in like great detail with like a great amount of precision. However, I do think you have enough vocab to deal with the questions, on a basic informative level. Might be enough for a 6. Grammatical range and accuracy, I'm I think I'm going to be harsh here and give the 4. So while there are flashes of good grammatical use, especially like the things that they forgot or what they need, and things like this, there are some of those nice like relative clauses or embedded clauses that you use quite well. So while there are flashes of good grammatical uses, is that a word? I don't know. You consistently make mistakes with the most fundamental elements of English grammar. I think that's, the fairest way to say it. Verb to be, sometimes word order, third person s, negative sentences. Yeah, there's just a clear lack of grammatical accuracy there, unfortunately. Pronunciation, I'm going to go with a 6. So you have some issues with consonant clusters. That's quite evident. And sometimes you lack some intonation. Not always, definitely not always, but sometimes you lack some intonation, especially with those difficult questions where you must think. There are some small elements of connected speech in there and so on, but yeah, for me it's a 6. Importantly, your speech is pretty easily understood without any real effort from the listener. So, some people, you really have to pay close attention to make sure you're catching what they're saying. With this candidate, that's not the case. You can kind of sit back, relax, and understand exactly what she's saying, so all of that's good. So 6646, that comes out as a score. So 6655 would be 5.5, 6646 would be 5.5. So overall, the candidate gets a score of 5.5, and that gives this candidate a score of low B2. Kind of right on that border between B1 and B2. Now, it is very possible that an examiner might give her 5 for fluency and coherence, might give her 5 for lexical resource. It is possible that she will get 5.0 in the real test. I'm trying to be fair. I'm always trying to be fair, but whenever I'm trying to be fair, I'm always kind of looking for positive features more than negative features. I know it doesn't seem like that, right? I know when I give this video feedback, it always seems like I'm being overly negative. I know, I know. But when it comes to marking, I do, if I'm between the 5 and the 6, I will always look for. I won't look first of all for reasons why I want to give the 5. I will always think, well, do I have enough evidence? Is there enough that I could plausibly give the 6? And if in doubt, I generally tend to mark up than mark down. Yeah. So for me, 5.5, if the candidate got 5.0 in the test, I wouldn't be surprised. If the candidate got 6 in the test, I probably would be surprised because I don't think that grammatical accuracy, in order to get a 6, she will either need grammatical accuracy to be at a 6, or she will need grammatical range and accuracy to be at a 5, and one other aspect to be at a 7. And I just don't see, I can't see an examiner giving her 6 for grammar, and I can't see an examiner giving her 7 for any criteria here. So for me, 5.5 is probably the ceiling, the highest that this candidate can get, but I wouldn't be so surprised if she got 5.0. I have been wrong in the past, and I don't know exactly how examiners mark in Indonesia. So yeah, we'll see. So of course, this feedback and these scores should be used just as a guide. It's not a 100% definitive answer of what you're exactly going to get. Hopefully you have some ideas about how you can improve. My recommendation, you have to, and I know nobody wants to do it, you have to study basic grammar. Um, you have to. I don't think, speaking practice could be useful, but I don't, that's not what's going to help you here. For some people who really lack fluency, who can't answer questions, they really need that practice. I don't think you need desperately this practice. I think it can help, but you have to study basic grammar. You have to know what present simple is and what present continuous is and how we use the verb to be and when we don't use the verb to be, because you just at the moment, unfortunately, you don't know that. Yeah, and I would say, I'm even I'm gonna leave it there. Areas of improvement, you have to study basic grammar. I don't see, with lexical resource, maybe learn some common dependent preposition, or maybe do some work on prepositions. So we have like different types of prepositions: time, movement, place. We have dependent prepositions, like it depends on the situation, or I'm afraid of something, or I sympathize with somebody, or I disagree with someone, or I disagree about something. These things are called dependent prepositions. It is, an evident weakness in your lexical resource, the way that you use prepositions. Yeah, and guess I guess I will leave that there with just those two areas of improvement. But grammar is the most important thing. Just basic grammar. Don't worry about range. Don't worry about studying B2 or C1 grammar. It will completely overwhelm you. Elementary grammar, pre-intermediate grammar, A1, A2 grammar. That's what you have to study. And you already know enough English that it should be okay for you to study this grammar, because it's very, very low level grammar, and your general level of English and your understanding is quite strong. And so I would hope that in 3 months you should be able to get through all A1 grammar and half of all A1 grammar and half of A2 grammar in about 3 months if you're like hardcore with your studying. But yeah, so yeah, for me, the overall score for this performance is 5.5. Now, I hope you enjoyed this breakdown of the candidate speech. As always, if there's anything you agree or disagree with, please let me know in the comments section. And also, if you would like your own free practice IELTS speaking test with feedback, or if you would like me to check your IELTS writing, you can request this on my Telegram channel, Expert Examiner. A link to this Telegram channel is given in the description below. I will leave it there. Have a wonderful day. See you all soon.